Welcome, everybody. It's wonderful to see everyone together tonight to bring in Shabbat. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce Eitan Hindin, who is the Director of Spiritual Learning at Daughters of Israel. And he is going to lead our program tonight. Thank you so much, Eitan. We're happy to have you tonight.
Thank you very much, Susie, and Mazal Tov to you.
Thank you so much.
Grandson.
Thank you.
So yeah, it's really an honor to be able to go into Shabbat with this group here. Thank you to the Jewish Federation of Greater Metro West for inviting me, and it's an honor to join the Holocaust Council. So in preparing for this evening lead into Shabbat program, I started to think a little bit about Shabbat. It's something that comes every week and we kind of take it for granted. But I thought about how there are a lot of traditions and customs in Judaism that kind of have like a mixed reviews. For example, eating matzah, for a lot of people enjoy the taste, but for some people eating it for 7 or 8 days, it can have, for some people, an adverse impact on their digestive system, for example. Other traditions, like we have, for example, kaparot or kaparas. So for those of you who might be familiar, we leading into Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the high holidays, there's a tradition to take, some people use money these days, and other people actually used to use a chicken that they would then do shchita on, they would shecht, and they would wave the money or the chicken over their head, and there was a recitation, and they would say, like, instead of me being the sacrifice, metaphorically, the money, the tzedakah, or the chicken should be the sacrifice. And I think, that tradition, for example, it evolved, and we kind of moved away from waving the chicken for various reasons. And some people, those who still even do it, generally use tzedakah, use money, which is a little bit, the logistics of waving money over our head is a little easier than a chicken. I don't know, has anyone here ever tried to do kaparas with a chicken? Wow, okay, Susie, I personally have not, I'll admit.
Mark,
even my kids too, it's kind of crazy.
Wow, that's impressive. I'm sure you have some stories, but
Sure.
but when I thought about it, like Shabbat, to me,
Are you
Shabbat is really one of those observances that I love. Like, I don't really see anything bad about it. I see it as something that's only become more and more relevant with time. And specifically, now we're so dependent on our devices, and for better and worse. I mean, this is incredible that I'm able to join, and we didn't have any traffic joining together, and we could just press a button and we're all connected. But there is something really beautiful about being able to disconnect. I happen to have not one, but 2 cell phones, and they keep me very busy during the week, but I find it very, very relaxing to be able to disconnect for 24 or 25 hours every weekend. And there's a song that is kind of a meditation on that thought about how wonderful is Shabbat, and the words in Hebrew. How many people here speak or understand Hebrew, kind of a basic Hebrew proficiency? I'll translate it anyway. Okay, good. So there's a song that the words of, and this is from the Shabbat, the Sabbath prayers. It goes like this: Chemdat yamim oto karata zecher lema'aseh v'reshit. That Shabbat is the most coveted of days. It's an enviable day that you have called it. Zecher lema'aseh v'reshit. And then there's another interesting phrase that it reminds us of creation. And on the topic of creation, before we sing the song, I want to share what I thought to be an interesting comic. Now you can tell me if you can see it. I'll pause for a moment for people to give me a thumbs up if you had a chance to see and get the. I'm going to go into gallery mode. Okay, I think everyone had a chance to look at it. So the comic, from the looks of things, maybe I shouldn't have rested on the seventh day. So some of you might be thinking, well, having to take a day of rest where we don't really work, and maybe that's not such a good thing. But interestingly, I think we, there might be times in our lives where we really have to do certain things on Shabbat. But interestingly, the abstaining from work one day a week seems to infuse the days that we are working with extra vigor and extra energy. So it's a special thing. We're going to sing the song Chemdat Yamim Oto Karata. It is the most coveted of days. Zecher L'Ma'aseh Reshit. It reminds us that God created the world in 6 days, but on the seventh day, God also took a day of rest, a day of reflection. Chemdat Yamim Oto Karata. Zecher Zecher L'Ma'aseh Reshit. 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 So the Shabbat is a way for us to remember each week about creation. It's really a time of reflection. And we sort of reflect on the week that has passed and the trajectory of our lives. I know that for a lot of people, especially those who are, some of the people that have joined might have young children at home. This is a lofty goal sometimes to really allocate time on Shabbat when we're not kind of in demand to really reflect. But there's a short story that I'd like to read that was written by Rabbi Mark Angel, Rabbi Dr. Mark Angel. He's the Rabbi Emeritus of the Spanish-Portuguese Synagogue in Manhattan. And he wrote a compilation of short stories. And I'd like to read a short story. And I want to hear some of your thoughts on the story and how it might relate to Shabbat as a day of reflection. So this story is called Love and Marriage. Okay, if you could raise your hand if you feel like I'm reading too fast, or if it's a little hard to make out the words. They were 21 years old and madly in love with each other. He asked her if she would marry him. She blushed, hesitated, dropped her eyes. Maybe, she whispered, but I'm not really sure. They sat together quietly. He held her hand. They were married a few months later. Life was good to them. They worked hard, rose from poverty, enjoyed a growing circle of family and friends. Idealistic, religious, socially involved, they were an exemplary couple. They were very happy. Every so often, perhaps just as a private joke between them, he would ask her if she would marry him. She would blush, hesitate, drop her eyes and say, maybe, but I'm not really sure. He would take her hand and they would sit quietly. After she gave birth to their first child, and then their second child, and then their third child, he asked her with a twinkle in his eye, now will you marry me? And each time she answered, maybe, but I'm not really sure. They would laugh and hold hands. When the children began school, when they grew into teenagers, when they entered college, at each milestone, he asked her to marry him. At each milestone, she blushed, hesitated, dropped her eyes and said, maybe, but I'm not really sure. This dialogue was repeated each year on the date of their wedding, anniversary, at their 25th wedding anniversary party, at their 50th wedding anniversary celebration. They were as madly in love when they turned 80 years old as they were when they were 21, even more in love. Each gray hair, each wrinkle on their face was a symbol of victory over the trials and travails of life, victories that they had forged together. Life had been very good to them. They were grateful for their many blessings. On his 88th birthday, he felt a terrible pain in his chest. He was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance, and she sat next to him holding his hand. He was put in the intensive care unit. After the various tests and procedures, one could see on the doctors' faces that the situation was hopeless. He was dying and could not be saved. He knew that his life was coming to an end, and she knew this also. She sat next to his bed holding his hand. He had tubes in his nose and an IV in his arm. He was weak, very tired, breathing heavily. He looked up into her beautiful, loving eyes. He rallied all his strength and he asked in a trembling voice, "Now will you marry me?" She blushed, hesitated, dropped her eyes and said firmly, "Yes, I will marry you. I am really sure now." An overwhelming joy filled both of them. They held hands. They had reached the pinnacle of their happiness. That's the end of the short story. And these short stories, they're, to me at least, very moving, but also thought-provoking. And I wanted to open up to the community listening. We also have Daughters of Israel is on the call, and we have residents there who are participating and watching. So I guess the question is, what emotions does this evoke for you? And can you think of any connection between this story and Shabbat as a day of reflection? And are there any other metaphors that Shabbat is likened to? I'm going to give everyone a big hint. And if you think about the one of the central prayers of the lead into Shabbat, Kabbalat Shabbat prayer, Lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. But does anyone have any thoughts or thoughts about the short story? You could say, maybe you could tell me that I read it too slow or too fast. Okay. I read earlier today, I read it to someone and they said it made them feel lonely. I'm not really sure exactly why, but it's short stories could evoke different emotions for different people, which is kind of cool. And that's true of prayers as well. Because I'll give one example. We talk about, for some people, going into Shabbat as a day of rest, it might be like a refuge from a turbulent week, from a very rough week. And for other people, it might be a moment of celebration, like looking back on the week and they had great accomplishments and achievements, or a beautiful family milestone transpired, like the birth of a grandchild. And it could be like going into Shabbat in a celebratory way. So it could be different things for different people. But this song, this story, to me, is sort of it touches on how we, throughout our lives, we go through, we're on a certain path. In this case, it was marriage to this individual and like a growing family and really a successful, loving marriage. But we also go through life often kind of unsure if is this really, oh, I see, okay, Peter has something to share.
Well, it doesn't relate to Shabbat. It relates more to my and Bernice's story, because we've known each other for 75 years. We've been married for 72 years. And my wife claims I never proposed to her. So we've been living in sin ever since.
Okay, beautiful. So some things transcend like a specific question. It's just understood, right? Like through telepathy, perhaps. But yeah, it's so to me, the story, it speaks about how there are many kind of, in this case, like in the story, there was the anniversaries where they would ask the question, and they sort of both knew that this was right. she still blushed and there was the hesitation. I think we often dance around like what we kind of suspect was the right choice, that we are on the right trajectory, but we also sometimes second guess that. And I think, to me, Shabbat is that one of those markers that every week we can kind of like regroup and reflect. It's an opportunity. I think we often don't take it, but it's an opportunity to think about that and but also to reconnect with our families. And the prayer, the Lecha Dodi prayer likens Shabbat as the sun is setting each week. It's like we're the husband and wife, the relationship, the lovers are kind of reconnecting once a week. Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabala. Another beautiful metaphor for this is one of the songs that we sing on Shabbat, and we're going to sing it momentarily, is a very interesting thing. It says, Yona matza vo manoach, v'sham yanuchu yigiei choach. Has anyone heard of that song? You can raise your hand if yeah. So it's commonly sung after Shabbat lunch, but I love it so much that I think that we're going to sing it now together. And what it means, who knows what the word Yona means? It's a popular name. I'm going to give you a hint. It's a type of bird, a Yona. Okay, so Yona, the dove, found on it Manoach. The dove on the Sabbath, there's a tradition that when after the turbulent flood in the times of Noach, after the great flood, the Mabul, the Yona flew out. Right, first there was a bird sent and it didn't come back with any signs of life or land. But there's a tradition that it was Shabbat. Happened to be on Shabbat that the Yona, the dove, was sent out of the ark, and it came back with, what did the Yona come back? That was a symbol of continuity and peace and things kind of like subsiding. Okay, I know you guys know this. Okay, it comes back with an
olive branch.
Yes, thank you, Sue. Yeah, it came back with an olive branch. So this beautiful song, it references that imagery, that metaphor, and it says Visham Yanuchu Yigiei Choach, and it is on Shabbat. It is there that they will rest. Those who are kind of Yigiei Koach, are kind of like worn out, and so Shabbat is a time for those who are worn out to kind of regroup, to rest, to reflect. And this metaphor basically makes Shabbat like this island among kind of turbulent waters, like a serene, calm place among a very turbulent thing. And that's, the 6 days of the week where we're with all the hustle and bustle could be challenging. And we have a nice island of serenity. So that I'm going to sing a traditional melody for Yona Matzah Vo Manoach, V'sham Yanuchu Yigiei Choach. Okay, this is really the chorus. It's actually a more involved song, but we're going to just sing the chorus together. Yona Matzah Vo Manoach, V'sham Yanuchu Yigiei Choach. Yona Matzah Vo Manoach, V'sham Yanuchu Yigiei Choach. Yona Matzah Vo Manoach, V'sham Yanuchu Yigiei Koach. Yigiei Koach. Yona Matzah Vo Manoach, V'sham Yanuchu Yigiei Koach. Yona Matzah Vo Manoach, V'sham Yanuchu Yigiei Koach. Yona Matzah Vo Manoach, V'sham Yanuchu Yigiei Koach. Yigiei Koach. time for people to relax, for those who might be a little bit worn down, and to regain strength on the Shabbat. Say hello to my daughter, Livia. She's also excited for Shabbat.
Hi, Olivia.
So we're gonna continue now with another very well-known prayer, and this is one that's traditionally sung as Shabbat, as the sun is setting and Shabbat is beginning, and this is the Lecha Dodi prayer. And again, this one likens Shabbat to like a reunion between two lovers, a husband and wife. Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala. Come, my beloved, to greet the Shabbat bride, or the Shabbat princess. And we're gonna sing some excerpts from Lecha Dodi. One of the my favorite stanzas from Lecha Dodi is Hitna'ari me'afar kumi, which means like Hitna'ari, shake off all of the dust, like all of the drudgery of the week, and rise up. And that's another reference to Shabbat being this time that we can regroup. Lecha Dodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nikabila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nikabila. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad ishmi'anu el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad l'shemu tiferet v'nitiba. Lecha Dodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nikabila. Likrat Shabbat l'chu v'nelcha ki hi mekor ha'beracha me'rosh mikadem Yesucha sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nikabila. We're going to skip to Hitna'ari me'afar kumi. Shake off all of the drudgery, the dust from the week, and rise up and enjoy Shabbat. Hitna'ari me'afar kumi livshi bigdei tifartechami al yad v'nishai beitalachmi korva el nafshi ge'ala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nikabila. The next one, Hit'oreri, Kiva orech kumi ori. Basically means wake up, because a special guest is coming. Hit'oreri, Kiva orech kumi ori. Uri shidaberi. Kevod Adonai alayich nila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nikabila. Lo tevoshi v'lo tikarni ma tishtochachi u'ma teheni bach yechesu ani eyami v'nivneta iratila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nikabila. And we're going to go to the next, the last stanza of Lecha Dodi. And this one, Boi v'shalom. It's there's a tradition to turn to the entrance of the synagogue or wherever we're sitting, And this metaphor comes to the crescendo, sort of, where we're greeting as the sun is setting, we're greeting the Shabbat, and the metaphor for Shabbat is like a bride or a queen. Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam v'simcha uv'zahola toch emunei am sirkula boi chala v'chadodi and we actually have two special guests who I think are, so the special guests are two third graders. One of them happens to be in this house at the moment, and her close friend, so Carmel and Clara, who are going to be leading us in another very well-known prayer that often is sung at the end of the Friday night prayer service. It's the Yigdal prayer. And Carmel and Clara are going to alternate the Yigdal song. And it looks like Livia would like to debut as well, my 3-year-old.
No, Daddy.
Okay, so.
No, Daddy. I need to tell something.
Okay, she needs to tell me something that's very pressing at the moment.
Daddy.
Yep. She wants to, you want to say Shabbat Shalom to everyone?
No.
No? She's not yet in the Shabbat spirit, but.
Daddy. One of the pieces of the giraffe fell and it was landing like so, and I didn't see it where it was going.
Interesting. Okay, you want me to help you? See, this is an example of the challenges, the trials and travails of the week that we try to shake off leading into Shabbat. So now Clara and Carmel are going to join us in the Yigdal prayer. If anyone has, before we start Yigdal, if anyone has any questions or thoughts that they want to share before they start, this is a good opportunity, or you can think of it during Yigdal and share with us after. Okay. So the Yigdal prayer, although it's generally sung by younger members of the community or of the synagogue, it's actually pretty complicated, like philosophical foundations of the Jewish faith. Like it talks about how, you know, the belief that God has no physical manifestations, and it talks about Moses being like the greatest prophet, different things that are pretty intense. It talks about Tchiyat HaMetim, like whatever that means, the concept of some sort of afterlife or resurrection. So it's interesting. That could be a whole topic for another gathering before lead into Shabbat. But nonetheless, it's the tradition for the youth to sing it, and Clara and Carmel on opposite sides of West Orange are going to alternate the verses. Wait, we'll wait to make sure that Clara is ready. It looks like Clara, give us the thumbs up if you're ready. Okay.
Yigdal Elohim Chai ve'yishtabach nimsav yinei al metziuto echad v'im yachid ke'yechudo naglam v'dan min sof le'achduto en lo demut haguf ve'eino guf lo na'roch elav kedushato Kan lo nechol davar asher nivra rishon v'imreshi l'reshito. Hino Adon Olam lo notzar yoreg gdulato u'malchuto. Shefan nevuato netano el sgulato v'tifarto. לא קם בישראל כמו שעוד נביא ומביא את תמונתו. תורה אמת נתן וימואל, אשר נתו ותפארתו. לא יכול לפעל ולא ימית דתו לעולמים לזולתו. סופר ויודע שתרינו, מביט לעשות דבר בקדמתו. גומל איש חסד כמפעלו, נותן לרשע רע כרשעתו. ישלח בקצה ימים משיחנו, לפתור מחכה כתשועתו. מתים יחייל ברוך חסדו, ברוך עד שם תהילתו.
Beautiful job. Thank you to Carmel and Clara for enhancing the grand finale of tonight's event and gathering. But now we have a few minutes just to chat. I'm curious where people are joining from. As I mentioned, we're based in West Orange. We have some residents at Daughters of Israel who are joining, and feel free to unmute yourselves and share where you guys are joining from.
Well, I'm Isabella Fisk, and I'm with my father, Mark Schoenwetter, who's a Holocaust survivor. First off, you girls recited beautifully. I am so impressed with the two of you. I mean, Mazal Tov. It's just beautiful, really.
Thank you. They do it sometimes other Fridays when I lead just for Daughters of Israel. And I half jokingly say, maybe we should just go straight to Carmel and Clara, because I know that's what a lot of people wait for.
I don't blame them.
Yeah.
How old are they?
Clara's 9 and I'm 8.
Wow.
Oh,
Clara and Carmel had a marathon.
8 and 9 years old.
Yeah, Clara just turned 9, and they had a marathon play date when Clara turned 9. I started to get the sense that Carmel was not planning on coming back. It was a sleepover and an all-day event.
beautiful.
So Fran, where are you from?
West Orange.
Also West Orange?
The Woodlands I live in.
Oh, okay.
I think Peter might have gotten off, but Peter was a survivor also, and he lives in Clark.
Okay.
He did send a note in the chat. I have to leave, but Shabbat Shalom to everyone.
Thank you, Sue. Sue, where are you joining us from?
I'm in Randolph, New Jersey, and girls, Yasher Koach. I wish I had students like you in my Hebrew school class. You were wonderful.
Do you teach Hebrew school, or?
I don't anymore, but I used to. I taught for 32 years.
Wow, at I guess HAMC or Gottesman Academy?
No,
or?
I taught in synagogue religious schools.
Got it. Okay, so if I had known in advance, I would have made sure that I pronounced all the Hebrew perfectly, but I wasn't given any forewarning.
And a special Shabbat to Olga. Olga cannot speak, but she can see us and she can hear us. So Olga is a Holocaust survivor, and she's a member of Adat Shalom and lives in Parsippany, New Jersey.
Okay, yeah, it's nice to be able to go into Shabbat with you as well, Olga. Even though I know maybe you're unable to unmute yourself and respond, but wishing you a Shabbat Shalom. And you said Parsippany, or?
Morris Plains.
Okay.
Well, her mailing address is Morris Plains, but she really lives in Parsippany.
Okay. Well, in New Jersey. So I really appreciate the opportunity to sing together, to think together about the short story, share the little comic, and hopefully we can do this again sometime soon. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom, everyone.
shalom.
And thank you so much, Eitan. And thank you so much, Carmel and Clara. You were all perfect. And this was such a nice and special way to bring in Shabbat. And hopefully we can do this again soon. And hopefully we can soon be able to see each other outside, maybe in person, outside somewhere safe. It would be so nice to see everybody's smiling faces. But for now, this is really special. And we're so glad that we got to do this. So Shabbat shalom, everyone. And we hope to see you all soon.